Hey everyone, today we have 3 brand new Black Series figures. I was able to get these from Toy Snowman in Canada, who will be linked below. Thank you to Mike Case for letting me know that these were in stock. I actually am packing for a trip at the moment. I have to leave early in the morning, so I'm kind of rushing to get through this review. So apologies if this is a little bit more brief than my usual reviews. Let's go ahead and get these unboxed. I'm actually surprised by how much I like a couple of these figures. The first that I want to review is Huyang. I was most excited for this figure. I love his character in the Ahsoka series and in Clone Wars. The color is a bit off. He's more of like a warm cream color instead of the cool gray like he is in the Ahsoka show. He looks a lot more like his Clone Wars appearance here. I feel like there's some like paint apps missing or just something, like maybe a little bit of shine. I'm gonna do a dark wash on him or a gray wash and then add a little bit of metallic shine to him. Here is his data pad. Nice little bit of detail there, nothing too fancy. Articulation at the shoulders is a little bit tight, but he can get his arm up. And I know articulation is not the most important with a character like this, even though he did have a couple fight scenes in the show. I'm just excited to have him on the shelf and just kind of like a stoic pose where it looks like he's teaching. At the waist, we don't have any articulation. His whole torso is just one piece, kind of how the old Black Series figures used to be. It's not bad for a character like this. Like, you really don't need too much going on. I do love the head articulation here. He can tilt left and right a lot, and I feel like he does a lot of head motion in the show, given a lot of personality. So having him just kind of with the open hand here, the head tilted, looks like he's droid-splaining something to you, or talking trash about Sabine to her face. I'm happy to say that he poses quite nicely and he stands pretty easily. I didn't really have too much trouble with him. He will fall occasionally like almost any figure, but overall pretty nice. And then he's got the little pop-out arms on his backpack. They're a little strange. I couldn't figure out exactly how they were supposed to go. Looks kind of like he's waving here. We know that in the show he uses these as like training lightsaber holders, kind of like General Grievous does. I thought this could turn out a little bit, but it was actually just like bending the plastic there, so just be careful. If he came with 4 training sabers and had like little grip hands on the back there, then maybe I would display him holding all 4 of the training sabers, but we only get 1 of those included in the package. And it's a little bit loose in his hand, so just kind of a disappointing accessory here, but it's nice that it was included either way. Let's do a quick comparison to some of the other droids. You can see how tall he is compared to C-3PO, and he's even taller than the HK-87 assassin droid, which is pretty nice to see. Of course, I did do a dark wash and a lot of weathering on that droid. Let's get on to Hera Syndulla. I'm really excited about this figure. The character really grew on me in the Ahsoka show, as well as Mary Elizabeth Winstead's portrayal of her. I thought that this sculpt looked really off at first, like she just looks so square in her face, but from the side you can actually see there's a totally great likeness to the actor there. There's certain angles where she totally pops and I'm like, oh, there is Hera. I did have the problem with my figure having quite a loose head. If you guys got the General Lando figure, you know that his head is kind of like loose for the peg. I was kind of surprised to see that here as well, but it doesn't really hinder any type of articulation, and she's got a lot of nice detail on her jacket here. On the left, we have her weapon from the new figure compared to her old Rebels appearance on the right. Let's compare those figures here. Obviously, the one on the right is her animated appearance before an actor was ever cast. She wasn't really meant to look that realistic, but you know, Black Series are realistic interpretations, but of course there's going to be some differences here. And unfortunately, her goggles don't actually go over her face in either figure, and she does have the limited thigh articulation here where she doesn't have the swivel, so it has that new hip joint, twists in and out, and you can get some articulation here. I really enjoyed this at first, but the more that I've been working with it, I was trying to pose Sabine the other night, who has the same thigh articulation, and I really felt like it was hindering some of the poses that I was wanting to do. So my opinion on that has changed a bit. And then she also has one of those little like dangly things on top of her holster that should technically be able to like strap her gun in, but it's just one of those little peg systems that just doesn't actually work in reality most of the time. But anyway, that's Hera. I was so excited to get this early, especially just with the finale of the show being last night. I'm glad to have most of my Ahsoka crew together. Now let's talk about pre-Viszla. So this figure, actually, it looks great, and I emphasize the word looks here because the articulation on this figure is very dated. This is the old Jango Fett body, which is the same as the Mandalorian Super Commando. If you're thinking about getting this figure, chances are you have one of those other classic Mandos. He just did the splits there. And you know, you kind of know how this goes. I love the way the Darksaber looks. They did a nice clean white paint job on it. It looks a lot better than the other Darksabers that we've got in the line so far. And the face sculpt looks amazing. It's not too shiny. The face printing is nice and clean. Really love the way that looks. And with the helmet, he just looks like extra cool. It's just really just not that fun of a figure to pose around for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. But I think like how nice the paint is on this, that metallic finish on the jetpack and on his armor is just so shiny and pretty that it kind of makes up for the lack of articulation situation here. It's not going to be that fun of a figure to play with, but on a shelf in your Clone Wars display, it's so nice, and I'm glad that we're finally getting this figure in the line. And you know, I'm not that great at posing, and if I could get him into a pose like this that looks halfway decent, I think you'll be able to find something that makes you happy on your shelf. So hopefully, if you were bummed out about this being on the Jango body, this makes you feel a little bit better, seeing how cool this figure can actually look. And just since we're talking about Ahsoka and all that, I want to show you some of the figures that I've been working on, some of the customs. This is a 3D printed poncho on the new Black Series Sabine to show her appearance in episode 6, I think it was. But this file for the poncho is on my Patreon, and so this was resin printed and then just placed over her, just in regular resin. I didn't need to use flex resin or anything because we actually 3D scanned the figure to make sure that the poncho would fit. And then this is actually a kit bash of the Dr. Aphra body. This is Jyn Erso's vest, and then I used the hair from the Marvel Legends Katie figure, and then used the bangs from Sabine's original head sculpt, and then I did a little bit of epoxy to fill it in. I love the way it turned out. And then I also made this training one with a 3D printed mask and saber, and then this is Ahsoka's lower body and Mara Jade's upper torso. And then I actually have this Loth cat on my Patreon as well. This one was painted for me by the Toxic Collector. We have like 5 different poses for the Loth cats, which is pretty fun. So that is all for today's video. I'm glad I was able to get these reviewed for you before I go on my trip. They did not have Marek in stock, which is why I have not reviewed him in this video, but between CMD Store and Toy Snowman, Canada has been the place to get figures early lately, which is kind of new. Anyway, here are some more videos from my channel that you guys might like if you enjoyed what you just saw. Subscribe if you are new to the channel, and I will see you all next time.